Welcome, everybody, to Me Time. Happy Friday. I'm actually doing a cross podcast with Unconditional because this interview was so special and I felt like covered both topics so well, and I want to release it on both. It's also the first Unconditional Horse episode. I am talking to, I was really blown away by her actually, to Katherine Schwarzenegger Pratt. She wrote this book. She's a New York Times bestseller, already animal advocate, mother. She hosts the BDA Baby podcast. She does so much. She released this book, Cat and Brandy, which is this beautiful story about a girl and her horse based on her real life. And it's so sweet. And I feel like the themes of this book, while it might be a children's book, all of us can relate on some level. I think horses are so powerful when we talk about that. And I just love the way she talks about all of it, the relationship that she had with her horse, Brandy, but also in general, like healing and so many things. Anyway, I just listened to the episode. I don't want to say it all here. You can listen to the episode. She's an incredible person. And I think the world of how she speaks and how this beautiful story is told in this book. And I hope you all enjoy. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. And like everything that, you've written other children's books. Obviously, we're talking about Cat and Brandy today, but this is Unconditional, but I also do a podcast called Me Time. And it's so funny because what I often talk about is like a way I come back to myself is spending time with horses. Because it is incredibly powerful. I've done equine therapy programs. I've ridden horse. I'm from Kentucky, so yeah. So very familiar. So I was like, I just love that this book exists. I love that it's a children's book. I love that you're talking about this bond, and the uniqueness of that bond when it comes to horses.
Yeah.
So we'll just start from the beginning. And so the book is called Cat and Brandy. It is out. When this airs, it'll be out right now. And it was, from the intro, the letter in the very beginning to the reader, through the entire story, I was like moved, not just as like a children's book, as a grown woman, reading about this. I loved it so much. So let's start from the beginning. So tell us about, you'll know from the book, but let's go back to how like Brandy came into your life, and then we'll cut to today and how that inspired you to write this story.
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. I'm so happy to be here and to talk to you. And I'm really excited that you have experience with horses and also that you read the book and enjoyed it as an adult, because I feel like, there are so many books I read with my children where I'm like, did anybody think about us adults reading these books to our kids? So I appreciate that, because that was definitely something that was important to me, that, I sit all the time and read books to my kids. So I wanted to put a book out there that was, enjoyable for an adult and also enjoyable for children.
And meaningful, even to an
Yeah.
adult, like just as impactful. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's important to me that the books that I put out there, adult books and children's books, and especially children's books, that they tell great stories that kids are interested in, but also I try to keep in mind making sure they have a positive message and an impactful message. And also I try to think, what are the questions that kids are going to be asking coming from this book? Because my kids, both my girls, are in the asking questions about everything phase. So I sit there and I think, like, what are the topics or the themes that are going to come up after reading this book or during the process of reading this book with kids? And, for me, with this book, Cat and Brandy, the theme of bravery and overcoming your fears and courage those are the really important big themes in this book. And, of course, shining a light on the powerful healing impact that animals have on us as humans of all ages, and what a gift it is to be able to be in the presence of an animal and how healing their energy can be. And it doesn't have to be a horse, it can be a dog, it can be a rabbit, it can be a fish, it can be anything, but just the incredible healing energy that comes from animals. And, we know so much about equine therapy and service animals and emotional support animals. And, they really have such a huge gift with being in the presence of us as humans. And it's this like unspoken sense of calm that comes from being in the presence of an animal. So that's also a big theme in this book, that was in my, cover letter when you start reading the book. But yeah, I mean, this story really is about bravery and about overcoming your fears. And I grew up around horses and around animals, and I always used to watch my mom ride her horse, and she grew up riding herself, and I watched my mom and my dad ride. And I loved horses and loved riding, but for me, I was instantly interested in just taking care of horses. I was less
Hmm.
interested in, like, riding them.
Hmm.
I would go to the barn while my mom would ride, and I would just brush the horses. Like, I just loved caring for them. And I remember getting on, I would ride with my mom here and there, and then when I started riding when I was younger, I was thrown off a couple times, and I would get nervous about getting back on. My mom always made sure that we got back on right away,
Mm.
and that was, so important, because you hear about so many people who have a spill on a horse and then just never get on a horse ever again, and you have this fear forever. And my mom and my grandma always talked to my sister and I a lot about overcoming your fears. And I think that really, my first memory of that really being put into action was falling off a horse, and my mom talking to me about that and putting me right back on my pony when I would fall off. And I didn't, of course, understand it because it seemed like such a crazy concept when I was little to get back on a horse I had just been thrown off of. But of
Mhm.
course, the impact of that is huge. And so I had this love of horses and loved riding, and loved just being in the presence of horses, and their presence is such an incredible one. And I remember seeing Brandy for the first time. It was just a random day when I was at the barn, and she was there not for me at all. Like, she was just there, and she had a big scar on her face, and so instantly I was like, right away, what's going on with that pony? And I was curious about it because I am my mother's daughter and curious about everything. And so I remember going to my teacher and I was like, why does that horse have a scar on her face? And she's like, oh, she's not friendly. She doesn't let anybody
Mm.
face. She's really head shy. She's nervous, and, she didn't have a great past. And she's not really a pretty horse, so you can't take her to horse shows. So, of course, right away, I was like,
That's my horse.
"Yeah, that is I'm gonna take some time, and we're gonna just go right into that." So, um, I was right away interested in her, and just like, I knew that she was considered to be not the friendliest horse, yet
Mm.
I was right away interested in her. And I took a lot of time and patience and energy into just letting her develop a bond, for us to develop a bond, but also for her to trust me.
Mhm.
And I, even at, I think I was like 10 when I first met Brandy, but I was instantly drawn to her and spent a lot of time just feeling her out and letting her feel
Mhm.
me out.
Mhm.
And she, through a lot of time and just being in each other's presence, she learned to trust me and I learned to trust her. And she was comfortable letting me touch her face, which was huge because she never let anybody touch her face. And be in her presence of, being able to brush her and ride her. And then also for her to show me that she trusted me, allowed me to feel comfortable
Mm.
riding and jumping and learning to show horses. And we were together every single day after school. I would go do my homework sitting in her stall, and I would like talk to her about everything. And I would spend every weekend at horse shows on the road with her. And she was really my best friend growing up. And so I knew then that my bond with Brandy was a powerful one. And
Mm.
I think for me through high school of like all of the changes of middle school and high school and like figuring out who you are and, you know, having a crush for the first time, dealing with girl like, all of like just the growing pains of life. I always would go to Brandy's stall and sit in all of my feelings. And so it was kind of like I experienced equine therapy from a very early age unintentionally and had such a comfort and a sense of calm just being in her presence. Um and I think it was such a huge gift. I built
Yeah.
this confidence, taking time to earn her trust and for her to earn my trust. I developed this confidence and this bravery and overcoming my fears. And so I always knew that one day I wanted to write a story about Brandy because she was such an impactful relationship in my life and amazing horse in my life. And then having daughters myself and
Mhm.
becoming a mom and now having a son, I knew that I wanted to be able to tell the story of Cat and Brandy and have it be a theme of teaching children about overcoming your fear and bravery. And also have that
Wow.
through line in there about the importance of having a shared activity with a parent and a child like I had with my mom
Yeah.
and that I
That's a
also
huge
have
part of it too.
yeah,
Yeah.
that I have with my kids. And so that was
And I love too that theme of, like, your mom being the one that was like, "You gotta get back on the horse," because oftentimes we're like, "But I don't want to, but I don't
yeah,
want to, but I don't," and it's like,
yeah,
mama knows, like, if you
totally.
can get there, and then with Brandy's help, it's so funny, you're, like, answering all the questions that I had, like, just in telling the story, but I hear so many things, it's like and you get all of this in this book of, like, from every theme, like, the curiosity, rather than sitting in the fear, of, maybe at least at first, without giving spoiler alert, without giving any of the story away, um, everyone's sort of being like, maybe, you know, give her space and what are we don't know her yet. We don't know what she's about yet, which so that's the patience and that's the time, but the curiosity of like, well, I'm not going to judge that. I'm just going to let Brandy sort of tell me what Brandy needs. And then you all formed this mutual trust in each other. But also, you were talking about confidence. And I think all animals, yes. And this is what you were just talking about equine therapy. And as you were saying it, I was like, it's so interesting how there are these special programs and they're wonderful. And I think horses are, I mean, every animal can be healing in some way. I feel like horses are incredible because they almost mirror back to you yourself.
Mhm.
Like a horse won't want to be like if you're not present and connected with the horse, a lot of time, at least these are some of the lessons I've learned. They're like, why don't you take a minute and when you're
Yeah,
centered and present with me, then we can be connected. But if it's scattered and like they're nervous, like it kind of forces you to come into like this present moment and really get to know like the energy of that bond. So in a lot of ways, I feel like animals in general, while we call it equine therapy, even just being in the presence of one, whether it's a designated course or a designated therapy session or not, as you were just saying, like sitting in the stall, they create a space for us that is incredibly safe and healing and loving that becomes mutual. Like
totally.
it's
Well, I mean,
yeah.
it's like horses and animals, they don't care about, what you look like, what job you have.
Mhm.
what your background
Mhm.
is, how much
Mhm.
money you make, what
Mhm.
titles you have. Like, animals don't care about any of that. And for some people, that's not ideal. But
Mhm.
for, a lot of people, you just wanna go and be in the presence of an animal, and they see you exactly for who you are. And
Yeah.
they, peel away everything else, and
Yeah.
they pick up on your energy. And I remember being told from a very early age when I was around animals, especially horses, like, they can sense everything. So you
Hmm.
might feel afraid, a horse can pick up on you being afraid. You might feel nervous, they feel you being nervous. And I always was told that. So I took my time, like, for example, with Brandy, I took my time because I knew that she was nervous and that she was frantic, um, and that she didn't trust people, and clearly for a good reason. And I knew I also came into it with, like, I've been thrown off a horse. Have had experience with, horses and ponies that weren't great. And so I was like, we're gonna learn to trust each other, and it's gonna take time and energy. And I think it's such a, it's a powerful thing that animals have, a powerful gift that just you come in there as you are, and animals see you for as
Accept
you
you.
are. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you're coming in all frantic and crazy and, like, out of control, they're gonna be like, no, no, no. We don't want, take it back.
Yeah.
So, like, they're unfiltered too, so they're not gonna show interest or trust or calm in that.
Right.
It'll take time to.
Which is why that pay I hate to even use this word, but, like, the reward, not I won't say the payoff, the reward of earning that trust is it is a very special feeling, especially with a horse. Because I do think that there is like a demand for a presence that sometimes, as you just said, if you're in fear, if you're not connected, if you're not being present, and they will sense that they'll be like, I don't, again, it's that mirroring too of like, if you don't trust yourself, how can I trust you?
Mhm.
So let's have and you were just saying that like the building the confidence and sort of acceptance of who you are and stepping into like that part of your I know I keep using it like being grounded and connected with the animal that you're with, or in this case the horse, is something that is a requirement for like the relationship to even move forward. And
Mhm.
I think at least what that's one of the reasons I love equine therapy, because it kind of forced me to stay very, very present and connected. And then they feel safe and you feel safe. And it's this like beautiful mirroring of um of emotions and feelings. And then when just like the moment you got on, that was a big moment for Brandy too. Like when
Yeah.
you got on Brandy and
Yeah.
it's like it's a huge, it's such a rewarding relationship.
It really
um
is. I mean,
Anyways,
I
yeah.
remember, like, the first time that I, like, would slowly work my way from her back to eventually to her face. I remember, like,
Mhm.
the first time she let me, like, run my hand over the big scar on her face, I was like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god." Like, I was like, "I can't believe this is happening. Is anybody watching this?" Like, is it, so it's, and then, as, like, a young girl, I think especially, like, a young girl growing up in Los Angeles, like, I gained a huge amount of confidence. And, there are so many benefits from being around animals. But I was able to gain a level of confidence just being in her presence and working through that with her that I don't think I could have gotten anywhere else, for sure.
So incredible.
So, it was.
And then to have, now, why was it now too important for you as a mom, but as, for children, people everywhere, to write this as a children's book and sort of share this story that way?
Well, I mean, I always am celebrating the healing power of animals with,
Yeah.
like, everything. I try to just talk about how, incredible and impactful animals are for us as humans, and no matter what your age. But I think for me, being able to put out a book especially now as a mom with my kids being the ages that they are, that celebrated bravery and also talked about overcoming your fears. You know, I always think about, like, there are so many things as parents that we wanna be teaching our children and instilling in our children, and you don't just, like, strike up a conversation on, like, a random Wednesday about, like, "Let's talk about fears," or, "Let's talk about, like, bravery," or, like, grit. It really, for our family, so much of these conversations of themes that come up really come from reading books and reading stories and telling stories and listening to stories, and my kids love storytelling, they love reading
Mm.
books, they love just also, like, hearing people's stories, like, they constantly are like, "Tell me a story, tell me a story." So, I love books that can do that so well, that just really tell a really great story that kids love and find to be so interesting, but really also teach kids about really important topics and themes in life. And so the theme of bravery and the theme of overcoming fears
Mm.
is such an important one, and tying that into, you know, a girl with an animal or a girl with a horse felt like such a great way to do that, because I see kids have interest in, I mean, I know, like, I was the girl growing up that you gave me a book about a character with, like, child with an animal or a child with a horse, and I was like, "This is the best book."
All in.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so
No, this is your, like, your heart. Like, this is your the whole
totally.
life. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it
obviously.
was, if I could find a way to do that where I could tie in an animal and a young girl with,
Mm.
you know, something that scared her, overcoming that fear, and being able to spark conversation around that and have parents or caregivers have that natural segue into talking about fears. What are you afraid of? How do we work through that? How do we
Mm.
You see that Kat was, she was scared and then she ended up getting on the horse. How can we do that with, with whatever you're afraid of, and talk about those things? Then the book will have served its purpose.
I love, love, love that. I have found through doing this podcast, not just kids, in all of us, when the lead in, the way in is animals, pets, bond, that relationship, it often opens the door. It's like automatically we're in a different heart space when we're talking about our pets. And then it usually leads to some, or I'll say it eases the way into um a more difficult conversation about, loss or grief or love or whatever it is.
Mhm.
It is always, I feel like we again drop into like a safer heart space. So I love that your book, being a conversation starter about feelings also is, being told through the unconditional love of the bond of a human and an animal. Like it's incredible because I do think that that sort of can soften, it's like I always say, like, pets are kind of like the great unifier. I feel like in some way it's like we can all connect around pets,
For
and
sure.
that love, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so it makes even the most difficult conversations, sort of easier to enter into, and so, I love that. I mean, this is like you have pets now?
Yeah, I was actually just I was doing another interview where I was talking about just, like, you know, emotional support animals.
Oh, they all
And,
are?
like,
They just all
yeah,
are.
like, just, you see, if you get on an airplane or if you're, walking through a shopping center, you see people who have emotional support animals with them. And you also see on social media, people have, like, the craziest versions of emotional support animals. And this
Yes.
year, my kids, uh, we a friend of ours gave us chicken eggs, and so we put them in
Mhm.
an incubator and we hatched these chickens. And I did not grow up with chickens, and it's been really interesting for me to see my daughters have this fearless interactions with the chickens, especially as they get bigger, where they just like, you know, I don't necessarily consider myself to be like a huge bird person, but like
Got it.
they just like my girls pick them up, hold them, go in the coop now, pick them up, like, and they're pretty big now. And also just to see, like I walked outside a couple days ago and I saw my youngest daughter Eloise was just sitting outside the chicken coop and just holding the chicken and just like stroking the chicken and just like opening up the wings and doing it. And I was like, I can't believe this chicken is letting her, because we think of chickens and they're so like kind of
Yeah. Kind of
crazy.
wild, frantic. Yeah,
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 frantic energy
yeah,
animals,
yeah.
and she's just sitting there, like, totally calm, and I was just kind of I was really impressed, but also just kind of, like, marveling at her confidence around these animals that are not familiar to her, but that she feels comfortable enough to, like, open their wings and, like, sit there and pet them, and it's not super common to just, I think as a child, just, like, sit down and stroke a chicken, but
No.
she's just like, you
Cut
know.
to you all on a flight next week, and you're
I
going
know.
to a chicken. We
Like,
see you.
emotional support chicken for my children. Oopsie. But I mean, I really, like, even when I reflect back on my childhood and even when I was in high school, like, it makes sense that both of my girls are like that
Mhm.
because I remember, like, I would, spend time around, we had dogs growing up, and rabbits, um, and then we were at the barn, and so we were around horses. Like, I remember at one point, I had 4 rabbits, and I would just, like, sit with them. I remember flying to go visit my grandma with one of my rabbits and taking my rabbit to church with me, and, like, I reflect back on that, and I'm like, "That's so interesting that I did that," and also, like, so s it was, I didn't know anything about animals being therapeutic
Yeah.
to you back then because that's such a, newer way of talking. But even, like, I had 2 ducks at one point, I, like, rescued these ducks. I also, like, rescued a pig. My brother Christopher and I rescued a pig, so I had a pig for a while. So I look
So you're
back and
Snow
I'm
White, you're Snow White,
yeah.
and,
This
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 is
makes
your
sense for my children.
and your daughters, yeah, of course, but how beautiful, and that's what I mean, like, in a way, all the animals, even unknowingly, untrained, and without all the vests and everything, they kind of all they are emotional support
Totally.
animals, and your daughter having that moment of just, like, the wings and like, what a what a peaceful, loving moment. I mean, that says so much about your daughter too, and their
Yeah.
care around these animals just because they've had you as an example too around, like, not, to be afraid and also be curious. And look, you're not
Yeah.
even a chicken person, but your daughters are.
Yep. Really are. And honestly, to be totally honest with you, these chickens, they're a breed of chicken that I've never heard of, and they're called frizzles. And if you've ever
That's
seen a frizzle,
no, I've seen a silky. I was gonna say, do you have silkies? Because I know how they're so cute.
I
Uh,
love silkies. I
I
would
love
have
it.
loved to have received a silkie when I hatched them, but these have turned out to be frizzles, and they are, I mean, the strangest looking chicken you'll ever see. Like, they have a personality that comes with them that you're just like, "What? What is that?"
Oh, they're wonderful. Oh, oh my gosh, we're gonna need a chicken book. I'm sorry,
I
we're
know,
gonna need a
I
chicken
know.
book.
That'll be up next
That is your next book.
for sure. Yeah.
Um, what about, do you have any other pets right now? Do you have,
I have my dog Maverick, that I've had forever. He's mostly at my mom's house right now because with my little kids running around constantly, Maverick, who in his older age, is like, "I have no time for this." Um, and then I have my horse, Cinco, who I got when I outgrew Brandy. He's still alive. He's 33 years old, and I take my girls all the time. We go to the barn and we brush him and feed him. He eats soup now because he's so old.
oh,
Yeah, but it's such a gift because I got him, when I got too tall for Brandy, and, Cinco came into my life, and he's still just like happy as a clam, retired, and so we go to the barn a lot, and the girls are around him and just like love him.
I would ride this horse, Dakota, which is so funny. I had a dog named Dakota as well, but they were like, it was like I had been riding, Montana? Yes. And then after a while, they were Montana was getting very busy. Montana was very popular. So I was like, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna put you on Dakota," but, he doesn't, he takes a minute and he can be a little nervous and he can be a little skittish. And I was like, oh, and I remember being really nervous about this too. But then I ended up like, D- Dakota and I developed such a bond to the point where like I called the other day. I was like, I want to just make sure they're giving him his bananas because he chokes if he eats. He's also older, but if he has carrots, he'll just kind of swallow them whole.
Yeah, so did Cinco.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was like, I remember the girls giving him a carrot, and my older daughter, Lila, she was like, "I think he just swallowed that whole carrot." I was like, "He
Yeah,
did."
yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was
we're
like, "Oh, well, they're giving him his bananas. I miss him so much." But it did take us a little while, but we finally we just got to a place, and I would cancel my lesson if I know it sounds terrible, but I was like, "Is Dakota available today?" And they'd be like, "Oh, he's not. He's tied up with a school or some kids or, whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll come tomorrow.
yeah,
I'm gonna see my
anyway,
Dakota."
yeah.
So we've kind of answered the question. I always ask people how has your pet changed your life? But we've gone deep into that. And I also like to ask people, what do you do to come back to yourself when you feel like you're a little offline? Often for me, it involves my animals, but what does Catherine do when you're feeling that scattered or frantic energy like the chickens to come
I
back
mean,
to yourself?
I would say definitely if I can, go to the barn. Like, I feel like that to me is, like, just even the smell of the barn and just, like, the energy that is present there or even not present because there's a I feel like in the world today and just in life and when you're in this routine of, take one child to school here, do another drop off here, it's like, and then putting in work and, coming home. Like there's so many different things going on. And so when I just want to feel like, you know,
Yeah.
calm, the moment that I just drive into the barn and see the horses, I'm like instantly put at ease. And I remember going to the barn, I think it was like a year ago. Um, it was probably like right before I was pregnant with Ford, my youngest. And I remember going to the barn with both my girls and with my husband, and we were there, and my girls were brushing a pony and, feeding the pony, and Chris was over there with them. And I was sitting on this like grass patch right outside the horse's stall, and I just like laid down and I was just like, "Oh, this is just like absolute
Oh,
heaven." Like, it's just like this feeling of like you're laying in the grass, there's a horse above your head, and you hear the horses and the clip clops and just like the barn noises. And I remember like leaving there and Chris saying to me, "I've never seen you like more relaxed and at peace and at ease as when I saw you and like looked over at you laying on the grass there."
wow.
And he's like, "You're just, like, so calm." And I was like, "It's true." Like, I just have, like, this, like, instant
Peace.
relaxation that overcomes my whole body. So I feel like whenever I feel like everything is, too much or I just wanna find some calm, I definitely crave being in the presence of horses or being at a barn for sure. If I can't get to the barn because of whatever is going on in my day, I would say the second best thing for me has definitely been meditation
Mm,
because I it's been so amazing for me. I do TM, which is transcendental meditation, and it's been so like life-changing for me to be able to have just a practice that I can go to do like 15 minutes or 20
mm,
minutes and then have just like a reset
yeah.
of myself. I can't find the time to actually get out to the barn. that for me has been a great way to come back to my center and just calm down my nervous system.
How long have you been doing that?
So my journey with meditation is a funny one. My mom, when my mom and dad first split and separated, my mom was introduced to TM
Mhm.
and had an experience with trying to learn TM with Bob Roth, who is like a
Mhm.
TM god.
Yeah.
And she had this experience learning it and was like not in a place to receive that. And then, slowly began um, implementing meditation into her life. And, still it's a huge part of her life. And I remember when like about a year after my parents separated, my mom tried to get my siblings and I to also have an experience with TM. And I remember doing a course with Bob Roth and with one of his teachers in TM. And I did like 5-day course with them. And I was like, this is just not working for me. Like, this is not, I wasn't in a place to receive
Right.
that sort of teaching. I wasn't open to it at all. I was like, this is crazy. It would have been really beneficial for me, but I just was not in a place in my life where I could receive that.
Mhm.
And it honestly wasn't until early last summer, so not this year, but the summer before, and I was pregnant with Ford, and I had both of my girls, and my husband was traveling, and I remember my mom and sister staying with me. We were out of town, and I was, like, going around crazy, like, just in full mom mode,
Mhm.
pregnant, hot. It's like, the chaos, and I remember my sister saying to me, like, she's like, "You've waited your whole life to be a mom and to be in this phase of motherhood, and you've always wanted to be a mom, and you've looked forward to this." She's like, "Right now, you don't seem like you're having fun,
Mm.
and you don't seem like you just seem like you're so stressed about, like, every." And I was like, it's something that really, like, only a sister can say to you because otherwise you'd be like, "What?"
Like,
Like,
what do you know? Yeah.
"Where are you?"
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, "Oh, you're right." Like, I'm just kind of speeding through all of these different tasks and, I'm, walking around with, like, a baby in my stomach, and have a 3.5-year-old and, a 1.5-year-old, and I'm, like, running and I was like, "Oh, okay." So, I remember pausing and thinking, like, I have to implement something into my life where I'm not as reactive and I'm not as quick to respond to things and that can allow me to have some center and some peace and calm. And I said to my mom, I was like, I think I'm ready now to like go back and learn about TM. And so I did another TM course and I've been doing it for over a year now. And I truly think that because I did that in so much of my pregnancy with Ford, that he's come out and he's like the chillest, most zen, calm child.
Oh, I
Like
love it.
even for a boy, everybody has always said like, "Oh, boy energy," right? Like they're so crazy.
Mm.
And I'm like, it's a totally different energy. Like boy energy is definitely totally different. And he's like a little Buddha baby. He's
Wow.
just like so calm. So I don't know for sure if it's that, but I definitely did that in majority of my pregnancy with
Well, it's
um
also a reflection of it, like,
yeah,
probably your life now too has more, of that, like, peace in it, so he is feeling you too. That's
yeah,
really
for sure.
cool that you did that, and I love that your mom did that, and I also love that you were like, "I can't receive this right now," and then you're like,
Like, no, no.
"I can receive this now," or, "I need to
Yeah,
receive this now." It's
yeah.
funny, I did it, last year about a year ago as well.
Oh,
I
really?
do feel like my life is I it's the only thing that I really know that I've done different, but I do feel it has changed, and I do try to keep up with it, not twice a day, but definitely once a day.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was like last year. My birthday's in August, so last year for my birthday, I did the course, and then
Yeah.
I've been doing it since, and I'm
It's
really
amazing.
happy to have that in my life. Really
Yeah.
happy. Yeah, I feel you, but I also feel not being able to receive it, and also being like, what? No,
Yeah.
I don't think
So
I'm.
hard.
Yeah. But I love that, and I love Ford. Ford's just like, I'm chill.
I know. He's like,
I'm
"I am a
chilling.
Zen movie." I'm like, "Great."
I love
Yeah.
it so much. Okay, last words before we go, or anything else you want people to know about you or the book or anything you want to share.
I mean, I I'm grateful to have this kind of a conversation because I
Mm,
haven't yet, and, I really enjoyed having this conversation. I feel like we've covered so much, but also just, like, touched on, you know, the, of course, like, the huge impactful gift of the presence of animals in our lives, but also just the importance of, like, you know, showing up for life in your truest form and
mm,
really do that in so many different ways. And for me, and it sounds like you as well, really benefiting from being able to do that in the presence of animals.
yeah.
Um and so I'm really excited to have conversations like this and also to have the book be out so people can also have conversations um and if I am able to be in a town or a bookstore that's local to anybody listening to this, I would love to have conversations like this at book signings or, book events because I think it's so powerful and
Mm,
impactful and just to have the language and awareness um, as adults and then also for some as parents and caregivers to have that awareness and just language and being able to have these conversations with kids is so exciting to me
Oh, I
and
think your book asks that. That's what I love about it. It is a children's book and but even as I deeply related to it. And I definitely, it felt like it asked for those conversations. It wasn't just a, and yes, we love books and children's books about horses and pets and all the stories are welcome and we love them. But like, there's a depth to this that I think, you have hit a point that you'll be hearing more of these conversations that you wanna have because it asks that, and I love that. That's why I was like, you answered all of my questions, for
that's the goal.
talking. So no, you did great. You did great.
Thank you so much.
But anyway, I absolutely loved talking to you. I literally feel like I could talk to you. And I would say too, if you ever need a moderator or anybody or an interviewer anywhere, if you are doing anything, I mean, I'm on a show right now in Toronto, so I don't know how, but I would try to make it happen and be there.
That's
And
so sweet.
I
Thank
would love
you.
to help you promote the book in any way I can, and just you in
Awesome.
general. You're a great, you're a good one.
Oh,
Um,
thank you
yeah,
so much. That's so
yeah.
sweet. I will definitely keep that in mind because I'm always like, people always say to me, like, let's do this. And who would you want to moderate it? So
Yeah.
that's great to know.
Thank you all so much for listening to this beautiful episode with Katherine Schwarzenegger Pratt. She is, I'm sure you enjoyed it as much as I did talking to her and meeting her. I love these stories of animals. I love how we connect and we bond when we talk about them. It's such a beautiful thing. It says so much about them. And anyway, so get her book. It is available now everywhere books are sold. Thank you for listening to Unconditional and Me Time because I'm going to air this on both. Anyway, thank you all so much and we'll be back with more soon.